How does a lone destroyer, a mere fraction of the size and firepower of its adversary, sink a powerful enemy cruiser while 5 friendly battleships stand by, forced to watch? It is a question that defies the very logic of naval warfare. This is not a tale of a grand fleet action, but a story of individual courage, staggering odds, and a single ship's defiant stand in the frigid, unforgiving waters of the Barents Sea. On the morning of December 31, 1942, amidst the perpetual twilight of the Arctic winter, the fate of an entire convoy and the pride of the Royal Navy would rest on the shoulders of the men aboard one small, unassuming destroyer, HMS Onslow. The stage for this drama was convoy JW51B, a vital lifeline of war material stretching from Iceland to the desperate Soviet ports of northern Russia. 14 merchant ships, carrying tanks, aircraft, and fuel, were shepherded by a handful of Royal Navy escorts, the destroyers Onslow, Obedient, Orwell, Obdurate, and Achates, along with the corvettes Rhododendron and Hyderabad, and 2 trawlers. Their close escort commander was Captain Robert Sherbrooke, a 37-year-old veteran known for his calm demeanor and tactical acumen, flying his pennant from the Onslow. Unbeknownst to them, the German High Command had dispatched a powerful naval task force, Operation Regenbogen, to intercept and annihilate the convoy. This force, led by the heavy cruiser Admiral Hipper, was a predator of the first order. Armed with 8 8-inch guns, 12 4.1-inch secondary batteries, and torpedo tubes, the Hipper could unleash a broadside weighing over 3 tons. She was accompanied by the pocket battleship Lutzow with 6 11-inch guns and a screen of 6 large modern destroyers. Against this, the British escorts were armed with 4.7-inch and 4-inch guns, pop guns in comparison. The strategic stakes could not have been higher. A successful massacre of JW51B would not only sever a critical supply line, but also be a monumental propaganda victory for the Kriegsmarine, potentially threatening the entire Arctic convoy route. For Captain Sherbrooke and his men, this was more than a mission. It was a shield for the entire Allied war effort in the East. The morning of New Year's Eve dawned not with light, but with a deepening gray. A blizzard had subsided, leaving behind a heaving sea, visibility that shifted from 2 miles to 200 yards, and a biting cold that froze spray to the superstructure. At 0830 hours, lookouts on the Onslow spotted unidentified vessels to the southeast. Hope flickered that they might be the distant cruiser cover force, but it was a fleeting hope. Through a break in the squalls, the distinct, massive superstructure and raked funnels of the Admiral Hipper were identified. A chill that had nothing to do with the Arctic temperature gripped the men on the bridge. Captain Sherbrooke faced an impossible tactical dilemma. His standing orders were clear: protect the convoy at all costs. The distant British covering force, which included the battleships Anson and Howe, along with the cruiser Cumberland, was too far away, over 200 miles to the southwest. They were spectators in a tragedy that was about to unfold. Sherbrooke made his decision instantly. He ordered the convoy to turn away into a protective squall and hoisted the signal that would become his legacy: "I am engaging the enemy." What followed was a masterclass in tactical deception and sheer audacity. Sherbrooke gathered his 4 O-class destroyers, Onslow, Obedient, Orwell, and Obdurate, and turned not away, but towards the behemoth. He ordered them to make smoke, creating a thick, choking screen that billowed across the sea. To the commander of the Hipper, Admiral Cummets, this was a baffling sight. The aggressive maneuver, the dense smoke, it screamed of a trap. It had to be the prelude to a torpedo attack from hidden cruisers. Cummets hesitated, his focus torn between the fleeing merchants and this bold, suicidal charge.
By 09:45 hours, the Hipper had found a gap in the screen and opened fire with its 8-inch main battery. The world exploded around the British destroyers. The roar of the heavy shells was deafening, the geysers of near misses towering over the small ships.
The Onslow was the primary target. A salvo of 8-inch shells slammed into her. One wrecked the forward gun mount, killing the entire crew.
Another tore into the bridge, killing or wounding everyone except, miraculously, Captain Sherbrooke.
A shard of steel sliced across his face, destroying his left eye. Bleeding profusely and partially blinded, he refused to relinquish command. He simply moved his station to the aft torpedo director, his voice calm and steady over the TBS radio, continuing to direct the fight.
Meanwhile, the destroyer Acates, bravely laying a protective smokescreen for the convoy, was caught in a murderous crossfire. She was hammered by the Hipper's secondary armament, her hull torn open, taking on a heavy list. Yet her crew fought on, desperately trying to keep the life-giving smoke flowing.
The situation was deteriorating by the minute. The Hipper and her destroyers were closing in for the kill. The British screen was battered, bloodied, and on the verge of being overwhelmed. It seemed nothing could stop the German cruiser from breaking through and tearing the defenseless merchantmen apart.
By 10:15 hours, the Battle of the Barents Sea had reached its crisis point. The Onslow was a floating wreck, her forward guns silent, fires raging amidships, and her captain grievously wounded. The Achates was slowly sinking, her crew making a last, valiant stand. The other destroyers were low on ammunition and taking damage. The convoy's smokescreen was the only thing shielding it from utter destruction. And then the situation grew even more dire.
From the south, a new threat emerged. The pocket battleship Lützow, with her 6 11-inch guns. Now the two most powerful German surface units in the Arctic were converging on the scattered and beleaguered British force. The 5 mighty battleships of the British home fleet were hundreds of miles away, utterly powerless to intervene. For all intents and purposes, convoy JW51B was alone. On the bridge of the Lützow, her captain saw a clear path to the merchant ships. He maneuvered for a clean shot. Aboard the burning Onslow, Captain Sherbrooke, his face a mask of blood, his vision blurred, understood the final act was beginning. He prepared to order a suicidal torpedo run against the Hipper, a desperate charge to draw fire and buy a few more precious minutes for the convoy, a sacrifice that would almost certainly mean the end of the Onslow and all aboard her. The men on the destroyers, exhausted, freezing and surrounded by the wreckage of their comrades, readied themselves for the end. The weight of the entire battle now pressed down on these few hundred souls facing the combined might of the Kriegsmarine's finest. But in the chaos of battle, fortune favors the brave. And at this precise critical moment, 2 unassuming Royal Navy warships, which had been shepherding the rear of the convoy, found themselves in a perfect, unforeseen position. They were the cruisers HMS Sheffield and HMS Jamaica, part of a separate, closer escort force that had been racing towards the sound of the guns for over an hour. At 10:29 hours, as the Lützow was moments from opening fire on the convoy, the sleek silhouettes of the British light cruisers emerged from a snow squall to the northwest. To the stunned German lookouts, they seemed to materialize from nowhere. The Sheffield and Jamaica, each armed with 9 rapid-firing 6-inch guns, immediately locked on to the Admiral Hipper. The first salvo from the British cruisers was shockingly accurate. Shells straddled the Hipper, and at least 2 direct hits slammed into her starboard side. One wrecked her aircraft hangar, sending a fireball into the sky. Another tore into her machinery spaces, causing a significant drop in speed and flooding.
The psychological impact was even greater than the physical damage. Admiral Kumitz, already unnerved by the destroyer's aggressive tactics and now believing he was facing a superior force, immediately broke off his attack. He turned away, ordering a retreat under a smokescreen. The Lutzow, confused by the sudden arrival of the cruisers and the Hipper's withdrawal, fired a few inaccurate salvos before she too turned south, unwilling to face the British force alone. The German destroyers, seeing their capital ships retreat, disengaged. The relentless pressure on the British escorts vanished as suddenly as it had appeared.
The lone destroyer's defiant stand had held just long enough. Captain Sherbrooke's brilliant sacrificial gambit had worked. He had delayed, distracted, and deceived a far superior enemy, buying the crucial time needed for the cavalry to arrive. As the German task force vanished into the southern mists, an eerie silence fell over the Barents Sea, broken only by the crackle of fires and the cries of the wounded. The cost had been high. The destroyer HMS Acades had capsized and sunk, taking 81 of her crew with her. The minesweeper Bramble was also lost, with all hands. HMS Onslow was severely damaged, with 17 killed and 23 wounded, including her captain.
But their sacrifice was not in vain. Every single one of the 14 merchant ships of convoy JW51B survived. Their precious cargo of war material rolled on, unmolested, to the Soviet Union. When news of the battle reached London and Berlin, the reactions could not have been more different.
Winston Churchill was ecstatic, hailing it as a brilliant victory against impossible odds.
In Germany, Adolf Hitler flew into a furious rage. He was so enraged by the failure of his heavy ships to destroy a mere convoy and the perceived incompetence of his surface fleet that he ordered the decommissioning and scrapping of all major German surface warships. The Kriegsmarine surface threat was effectively broken not by a grand fleet, but by the actions of a few determined destroyers and their wounded captain.
For his daring, skill, and determination, Captain Robert St. Vincent Sherbrooke was awarded the Victoria Cross, the British Empire's highest award for gallantry. The official citation read that his leadership had saved the convoy from certain destruction. The Battle of the Barents Sea became a legendary example of how courage and tactical genius can triumph over raw firepower. This was just one of countless untold stories from the Second World War. A story of a lone destroyer, a wounded captain, and a victory snatched from the jaws of defeat. Subscribe the War Archives as we continue to bring these forgotten chapters of history back to life.